Welcome to the Let's Have It podcast, your 10-minute fix of insights on tech in the modern workplace. I'm Todd, I'm the sales manager here at ClearVC, and what we're going to be diving into today, and I'm pleased to be sat here with Simon, who I've worked with for a very long time, is hybrid working and how to make that just, well, straight up work. Most companies at the moment, we can see that are moving towards hybrid working or already have due to COVID. It's made the office need to evolve, and how that's being managed is really key. So whether that be a lot of empty desks because you've minimized the space, people don't want to come into the office, or whether there's a mandate that they do, is how you manage that and how do you make that the most effective you possibly can. So I've sat here with Simon. Simon's with GoBright. I'll let him introduce GoBright, what they do. Welcome, Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. It's great to be here. So yeah, just to introduce myself to everyone watching, my name's Simon Privett. I'm the GoBright Channel Development Manager for the UK and Ireland. GoBright as a company, we define ourselves as a smart workplace platform, which means we're focused on all aspects of managing the office space, everything from room booking, desk booking, visitor management, and digital signage, allowing organisations to get a better handle of how their space is being used, to maximise the efficiency of that space, and to create a really first-class experience for the users when they come to the office, to encourage them to use that space more.
Excellent. Well, look, I've got a couple of questions for you anyway to make this nice and easy. But I mentioned before that, you know, we're talking that we see a lot of common issues in spaces. So what are the sort of biggest challenges that you guys see at the moment with hybrid office working? And what are you seeing as a common trend from people coming to you guys trying to fix these issues?
Yeah, great question, Todd. So I think there's three main areas where we see a lot of organisations looking to address issues. The first is the efficiency of their office space, so making sure that they are adequately filling the space that they're using and making sure that there aren't large amounts of space that are unused. Second is how can they make sure people are returning to the office in a more proactive manner? So how do we encourage users to come back to the office through better experience and better collaboration with colleagues? And the third is ultimately how do we reduce real estate costs? Certainly there's a lot of pressure on companies of all sizes these days, not just in conjunction with the economic situation in the UK, but also how can they make further savings? And being able to understand how that office space is used helps organisations to make those changes in advance.
Okay, well, it actually kind of leads me into my next question then. Seeing as they're the main three key pieces that you guys are seeing on a day-to-day basis, how does a solution like GoBright help fix these?
So in terms of efficiency, the biggest challenge that organisations often have, especially when they're trying to understand, well, how is our space being used? You know, what types of rooms are most popular? How many desks are being used? What's the trend of how these spaces are used? Are people coming in half a day or full day? The key is data. If you don't have the visibility or the data to back these decisions up, any changes you make to that office building are ultimately going to be in vain. So a lot of organisations these days will not just be looking at this as a general occupancy trend, you know, how much of our rooms and desks and how much time of the day are they being used, but actually which spaces are proving most popular. GoBright has the methods of tracking both booking and occupancy data within the platform, so we can understand very quickly, well, what type of spaces are very popular with our users and where should these companies be making further investments. You know, if we know there's a large number of meeting rooms that are unused, but there's maybe a small collection that have a very high occupancy, well, what is it about those rooms that result in a high occupancy? Is it capacity? Is it equipment? And by being able to understand those trends, they can shape the office, not just for today's needs, but also understand how those trends are changing over time with that data that GoBright can gather.
So one thing that we see from integrator perspective is that a lot of equipment that goes into spaces or is being used in really clunky and maybe not the easiest to use. Is there an emphasis from GoBright on ease of use for the users at all?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's always the worry, I think, for any organisation with building in any form of new solution. You know, are our users going to adopt this process, and how do we make that onboarding as easy as possible? So within the development of GoBright, we spent a lot of time looking at the UI experience of our platform, not just in terms of understanding how people typically, you know, book rooms or desks and how they search for them, but also using tools that they're familiar with. We've seen an explosive growth in the use of Microsoft applications, so Microsoft Teams, Outlook, of course. So what we've looked to do is create as many integrations with Microsoft that fit in with that ecosystem. So for example, you can access the GoBright platform through Microsoft Teams, so the user does not have to switch between applications. And because we support integration with Office 365 room resources, as another example, users can change their bookings either in GoBright, or if they prefer Outlook because they're used to it, they can make changes or make bookings in Outlook, and GoBright will still pick those up. So again, the user has the choice of how they interact with the solution, which is is really important for that adoption piece.
Okay, and look, the hybrid working piece, obviously we've spoken a lot about the end user experience and what that looks like. It can affect, I guess, the facilities and IT teams and the people actually deploying these solutions as well. So I guess from our side then, how can your solutions sort of take a little bit of the workload off the plate of facilities and the likes of IT?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the real key there is within the integrations of our platform. So one of the things an IT manager is never going to want to have to do is take a lot of the responsibilities of managing what is essentially a facilities orientated system. So when we come to things like how do we make sure the users have access to the GoBright portal, we don't want to manage a separate collection of users. We want to be able to perhaps pull data from Active Directory or Azure AD, for example, to make that process as easy as possible. From a maintenance standpoint, we have because our solution is cloud-based, we have the ability to roll out updates from the platform, so the managers do not have to worry about doing these stages manually. But one of the things that makes GoBright quite powerful is its modular structure. So organizations who often implement a solution are always worried, well, am I going to have to rip this out in a year's time and change it for something different? By having a more modular structure with our platform, users and administrators can add features over time, so the solution grows with them and they're not having to rip and replace or change things over time. They can build the system around their needs. With all those integrations in place, it should be relatively maintenance free.
That's what we hope for anyway.
Absolutely.
So looking ahead, what trends do, I mean, not just yourself, I mean, you'll have your own opinion, but GoBright as well as a business, what trends do you guys see taking place in the modern workplace over the next sort of 3 to 5 years? And I suppose if you're allowed to, if you can shed some light on anything that might be coming from GoBright as well.
No worries. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely numerous changes, and this is an ever-changing market. I mean, if we look at where it's come from since COVID to where it is now, we've made a lot of changes to our platform in response to opportunities we've seen. So good examples of that would be the advent of Microsoft Places, for example. So when Places came forward, the concern I think with all the market is Places going to be the de facto platform that all of these companies will start using for workplace management? And we took a slightly different approach. Rather than seeing Places as a competitor, we already had strong integration with Microsoft. So we felt, well, actually, we can build a lot of value around the Microsoft piece and have the two working in synchronization. So one thing we did do is if customers are using Microsoft Places, for example, we can integrate our desk resources with Office 365. So whenever you book a desk in Places, for example, GoBright will pick it up, and that means they can then also take advantage of our hardware for desks while still using Places if they don't want to use the GoBright portal, as another example. Another area where we also see a big opportunity is the growth of AI. It's no secret that Microsoft see the same thing, and they've developed Copilot, for example. So later this year, and it's still something we're reviewing, so by all means, I'm sure this will change over time and evolve, but we are looking at how we can leverage the power of Copilot to semi-automate some of those processes. Like if a user needs a room, rather than having to search for a room and choose a specific room, they can set more of a command-based scenario where they may say, hey, I want a room for 5 people, show me what's available, and it's more like a sort of user-driven command. So that's kind of where we see a big benefit with the Microsoft integration we have. The other side of it is, as more and more companies move to hybrid, we do think there'll be more of an advent in agile working. So this is where companies will have their staff not so much working for certain days of the week, but maybe just working for certain periods in the day. So we use a desk, we sit at the desk, once we're finished, we leave it and we open it up again. So rather than users simply saying, I've got this desk and it's mine for the day, you'll see people stepping up, coming back, and ultimately our solution is already geared for that agile type of working. So we're already future-proofing these customers as they make those changes within their office experience and working practice.
Okay, well look, we've covered quite a lot about where things are going, where they're at now, and how you guys see the market. Is there anything from your side that maybe we haven't touched on that might be worth talking about?
Yeah, I think the one thing I would round everything off with, ultimately the strength is not so much just simply in the booking processes and the data. Obviously we've talked about some of the benefits of those, but where we often see a lot of strength, and this is again where our modular approaches work very well, is challenges are normally across the entire building. They may not be isolated to simply the office area. So for example, when guests come into a building, can we make sure that we process that data correctly? But another area, of course, is digital signage. How to improve the communication with staff and visitors within the building. And again, because GoBright combines things like room booking, desk booking with visitor management and digital signage, there are lots of elements even outside the immediate office space that we can also bring in. So certainly what we would say for any end customers or individuals looking at this video today is to say, well, hey, have a conversation with the guys at ClearVC. By all means, there's a lot of workplace trends that GoBright can facilitate, and let's have a rewarding conversation and see what we can provide.
That brings us to the end of the Let's Have It podcast. A huge thank you to Simon from GoBright for dropping in and talking all things GoBright, specifically around how their smart workplace technology is reshaping the modern workplace. If anyone watching here is looking to deploy something like GoBright, or even start the conversation now about what that might look like going forward, and you're wanting to optimize your hybrid workplace, please do reach out to us either through the website clearvc.co.uk. Go to GoBright's website as well, which is gobright.com. You can sit down there, have a little bit of a further deep dive about what they do, and please do reach out. We'll be more than happy to help.